Donald Trump put out a statement on social media earlier today. Now, the former president said criminals coming in his statement, meaning into our country. But to be clear, Molly and Brian, the suspect was born in the United States.
I'm embarrassed.
That's the truth.
When people... Great. I'm glad we can agree on something. But when you say I'm embarrassed watching Joe Biden, I'm not embarrassed seeing someone stand up there and saying, let's wait for some facts here, because Donald Trump went out there and he said,
is that what he said? I couldn't understand.
No, he assured Americans all was well.
No. Listen to all of the comments that he made and the statements which said we need to make sure that we have the right facts. And the right facts were that the guy in New Orleans was an American. He wasn't an illegal crossing.
He wasn't.
That's not true.
Well, it wouldn't be a new year without Fox News hosts moving the goalposts when faced with facts from Jessica Tarlov, now would it?
There are two stories being told about this perpetrator. One that, people who took a moment to actually think about it and to get more information are telling, which is that this was a homegrown American terrorist. This is an American who was raised in Texas, who served in the United States military. And then there is another narrative that is being boosted by people who want to make a case about open borders, that this is someone who, flew through Eagle Pass, drove to New Orleans and tried to kill a bunch of people.
And let me say something else that's obvious, and I don't know if enough attention is being paid to this, but we all know that for the last 4 years, the Biden administration has been completely derelict in its duty. The congressional Republicans, we here in the House and the Senate, have repeatedly asked the DHS under the Biden administration about the correlation, the obvious concern about terrorism and the wide open border.
We're barely a couple days into 2025 and soon-to-be President Trump is already exploiting a tragedy for political gain. After the terrorist attack that killed 15 and injured dozens in New Orleans, President-elect Trump and his sycophants were swift to push misinformation and allude to the attack committed by a US-born citizen and Army veteran having something to do with the southern border.
Elect Donald Trump put out a statement on social media earlier today that reads as follows. When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil.
One of the first instances of this was on Fox News as they incorrectly asserted that the truck driven by the suspect had crossed the Texas border from Mexico 2 days before that attack, which of course was disproven. But that didn't stop them. They just performed some Olympic-level verbal gymnastics to try and spin their way out of it.
David Spunt, he and R. Griff Jenkins are able to report that the suspect drove a truck with a Texas license plate that came through Eagle Pass, Texas 2 days ago. David, what else do you know about this vehicle?
So we're hearing that the vehicle was traced to coming across from Mexico into the United States at Eagle Pass, Texas.
So we're getting some breaking news right now into our newsroom. I want to alert our viewers. Our sources now tell Fox that that truck from Eagle Pass, Texas did not cross 2 days ago. It crossed on November 16th. And the identification of the driver that crossed the border does not appear to be the shooter. We will get more clarification, we expect, Molly, in just 4 or 5 minutes from investigators on the ground.
I want to talk about the particular truck that was used in this. We know that it was a rental. We know that it was brought from Texas and it was spotted in Eagle Pass, Texas back on November 19th. But we understand that the truck does have a history of plate readers. It never actually passed through from Mexico into Eagle Pass. However, the license plate on this truck has a history of plate readers at the border in patterns, and I'm quoting, that may be suspicious for human smuggling. When this story first broke, a lot of people wanted to know the identity of the suspect. When you hear human smuggling, you think about the border, and the border has obviously been such a dangerous, ignored.
Not Trump. No amount of facts were going to sway his feelings. It was full-bore bigotry for the president-elect, saying, quote, "Country is a disaster, a laughingstock all over the world. This is what happens when you have, capital letters, open borders with weak, ineffective, and virtually non-existent leadership." But making sure to swiftly bring light to the true victim of this attack that claimed the lives of 15 Americans. Himself.
Look, I'm on the Border Security Caucus, and we've had former Border Patrol people come in and talk to us. 55,000 under Biden. I call him Biden because I think he's Obama's third term. 55,000 special interest aliens have come across our border. That's from countries who hate us. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, you can go right down the list. And yet they're coming into this country free. They've been handled at the border. Now, Cheryl, if only 10% got through that we didn't know about of 55,000, that's 5,500 special terrorists, potential terrorists that are in this country, in Mayorkas and company. As you know, they said, we've got operational control of the border. He's been saying that forever. They're not doing their job, and Americans are paying the price for that.
But when the subject was addressed on Fox News The 5, as she usually does, bless her for it, Jessica Tarlov had to endure several minutes of ear blistering before offering a dose of reality, highlighting that yes, the soon-to-be leader of the world's most powerful country couldn't care less about the facts when he has an axe to grind.
Narrative that is being boosted by people who want to make a case about open borders, that this is someone who, flew through Eagle Pass, drove to New Orleans and tried to kill a bunch of people. That's obviously not what happened here. But Secretary Mayorkas was on in the last hour with Sandra talking about this real threat of homegrown terrorism. And I understand that we need to obviously be careful about our border and that there are people who may have crossed over with ISIS sympathies. But at this moment, our focus is going to be this guy, the signs that were there, his...
Of course, when presented with those pesky details, let's just move the goalposts from New Orleans to New York as a means to justify blaming undocumented immigrants for a terrorist attack committed by an American radicalized right here at home.
Well, we actually have a huge change in the amount of people that are getting into this country and the number of deportations. So we now have the lowest number of border crossings that we've had in 4 years.
But they're flying them in. Why cross the border if you get a free flight?
It's not true. And we've removed 700,000 that they're just flying them in without background checks. Wait a minute. You think they're flying them in and they do background checks on them? Yes, I do think that you get a background check.
From Chile, from Venezuela,
what's gone on with Mexico and Central America and the amount of cooperation that's been going on right now with the executive.
Are you telling me that Haiti, Guatemala, Venezuela are giving us background checks?
You're telling me that in the last year where we've gotten out over 700,000 people, which is the most that we have deported since the year 2010, that we have the lowest number of border crossings, that we have record seizures of drugs that are supposed to be coming across the border, that this is a wide open border.
So then why did Biden lose if he's so great?
It was too little too late in addressing this problem. But when you say I'm embarrassed,
that's the truth.
When people... Great. I'm glad we can agree on something. But when you say I'm embarrassed watching Joe Biden, I'm not embarrassed seeing someone stand up there and saying, let's wait for some facts here. Because Donald Trump went out there and he said,
is that what he said? I couldn't understand. No, he assured Americans all was well. You guys know exactly what he said. No. Listen to
all of the comments that he made and the statements which said we need to make sure that we have the right facts. And the right facts were that the guy in New Orleans was an American. He wasn't an illegal crossing.
He wasn't.
That's not true. That's not true. There have been Republicans who have been on TV today talking about how this is an open border.
I'll call them myself.
You call them. That it's an open border
problem. Not mutually exclusive. That's not a mutually exclusive problem. You can have someone who's homegrown,
but you know
radicalized,
what they're trying to do. They're trying to conflate it. They're trying to make it out to be that it is a demonization
Both things can happen at the same time.
Undocumented people. That's what it was supposed to be. That's why he talked about it going to.
And we have
these aren't undocumented people. These are Americans.
75% of the arrests in New York City are illegals. Let's stop playing games.
Move the goalposts. Move it as far as you want. Sugar Bowl wide. Whatever.
Coming up. Major safety concerns across the U.S.
And it appears, though, after Tarlov's dose of reality, other hosts on the network got the memo not to allow the full-fledged bigotry to flow completely unopposed. In case of another Dominion Gate.
Now, the former president said criminals coming in a statement, meaning into our country. But to be clear, Molly and Brian, the suspect was born in the United States. He served in the United States Army. He was a veteran. The FBI is the lead agency in this investigation, going through the social media and any other accounts associated with the suspect. But that key bulletin right there.
It didn't stop them from offering a platform to the MAGA contingent for them to spew unsubstantiated vitriol free from pushback, which, as we know, is wildly dangerous considering this rhetoric has been cited by other homegrown terrorists in the past.
Driving to a Walmart in El Paso and start shooting Mexicans because they think that Mexicans are invading the country. This is where something like this starts.
Yeah, this is a problem, and you were saying a few moments ago you can't take him literally. Why shouldn't you take the president of the United States literally? Isn't that sort of a baseline expectation that he should stick to the facts?
I think, look, in this particular instance, and I didn't see the exact language he used in the Truth Social post, I don't think he was saying that this individual crossed illegally, or if he was, it was based on initial reporting that was incorrect, that somebody had crossed
We can show it up
Eagle
on screen
Pass.
again. I mean, he's talking about
But he has a valid
he's blaming Biden's open borders policy.
And
he's
again,
talking about that on Truth Social. I mean,
but does he tie it directly
when I said that
to
the
this
criminals
particular
coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. Not in this case. What he is saying in that Truth Social post is false. That is false.
He's not saying that this individual crossed the border illegally, but there were 400 people on the terrorist watch list.
Of course, but when there's an act of terrorism in this country, the incoming president should tell the truth to the American people. I mean, that is just, isn't that what the president should do at all times?
He's talking about securing the border, and he's been talking for years about securing the border, and he believes, and I think the data bears out that he won the election partially because.
Well, I mean, I just have to say, here he goes again. He talks about everybody else being fake news, and he's the one peddling fake news. But
as we know, this matters not to the former president set for a sequel. He'll just use any tragedy to detract attention from the fact that, well, admittedly already going against the will of his base regarding visas as he cows to the will of Elon Musk. And so he just couldn't wait for any opportunity to demonize black and brown folk as a means to reunite all the bigots. Grab that opportunity with both hands. But, well, welcome to the next 4 years, guys. I hope Jessica Tarlov is getting plenty of rest because something tells me she'll need it for what's to come.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.